So I just wanted to give a warm welcome to Nechama, who is joining us from Women of the Wall. I want to say that very personally, as somebody who entered into rabbinical school in the early 90s, as an out gay man, it was really important to me that there were already organizations like Women of the Wall who were very much bringing a sense of claiming one's own Judaism and recognizing one's place within the Jewish world, even when there were others who were challenging or even being combative to those kinds of choices. I have never made it, I've said this many, many times, that if it were not for many women proudly claiming their rightful place in Jewish tradition, taking on the rituals and the practices that were meaningful to them, that I probably would not have had a path to become a rabbi as a gay man. And so very much through rabbinical school, the Women of the Wall were a very inspiring group of folks, and in a lot of ways felt very distant as a student, kind of aspirational. Already, in the early 90s, all the way today, so many of my close friends and colleagues have davened and have participated and actually joined or supported Women of the Wall. And so it no longer is just a group of aspirational people fighting a civil rights battle. But for me, it is a group of many of my friends and people who I consider my family, who I feel strongly about standing with their right to claim the wall and all of the Jewish practices that people do at the wall as part of their Jewish expression. And even more so, I am really appreciative of someone who cares pluralism in Israel, that the Women of the Wall continue to be leaders in that fight in Israel in general. And so when we had the opportunity to virtually bring in the Women of the Wall to start aloud, it felt like a very powerful way to inspire us as a community that values Jewish practice as well as social justice. And so with that, I'm thrilled to welcome Nechama. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. Rabbi Lesser and Agatha and Haley, you've been so hospitable and so wonderful to work with. And I want to thank you for this opportunity to bring our message to your community. We're very grateful. Because of COVID, we've stopped traveling, but typically we have about 4 trips a year to the US or to Canada, or actually anywhere in the world where we're invited and we can spread our message. And it's been very difficult for us at these times. So we are doubly grateful for the opportunity to do this tonight. So thank you. And I send to everyone who's on the call best wishes for good health. And we understand that we all together will overcome this pandemic. And I just want to thank you for getting on Zoom yet once more to hear the story of Women of the Wall, and just know that our thoughts are with you for only the best of health and good wishes in the new year. I am going to share my screen, and we're going to start with a slideshow. Okay, there we go. So today we're talking about Women of the Wall, our mission to achieve equal rights at the Western Wall. I'm going to start this YouTube video. It might be a little loud. You might have to adjust your own settings, but it's only for a little over 2 minutes. And hopefully it'll start. Oops. Can you hear the sound? No? Okay. One more second, please. Okay. Can you hear it now?
put on your face, know your place. Shut up and smile, I could do that. 'Cause no one knows me, no one ever will. If I don't say something, take that dry blue pill. They may see a monster, they may run away, but I have to do this. I can't keep quiet. No, no, oh, I can't keep quiet. No, no, no one woman right. Oh, I can't keep quiet. There'll be someone who understands. Must be someone who understands. There'll be someone who understands. I can't keep quiet. I can't keep quiet. I can't keep quiet. No, I won't keep quiet.
Just gonna get to the next slide. Somehow. Okay. Okay. So the video that we saw is an overview of what we have encountered when we go to the Kotel. And it starts out where women are being checked through security. One woman you saw removed her jacket. They are looking for Torah scrolls. They're not looking for knives. They're not looking for bombs or guns. They're looking to see if we are carrying in a Torah scroll. The movie then moves to Anat Hoffman, who has been our chair of the board for more than 30 years. She's also the head of the Israel Religious Action Center. And Anat is bringing in a Torah. And you could see how disturbed the people were that she was handling a Torah and bringing it in. And you could see the pushing and shoving and people trying to grab it from her. And then you were also able to see the security guard who was very brash and even pushed one of our board members to the ground. He pushed a woman to the ground at the Kotel. But then we move to the vision of hopefulness. We see Leslie Sachs, our executive director who retired last year, reading from the Torah. We see bat mitzvah girls reading from the Torah. We see women performing ritual with tefillin and lighting the Hanukkah candles. So these are all components of what Women of the Wall is, our story, what we endure, but the strides that we've made. And I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit more. But the movie was really just an overview for you. And if you want to watch more videos, we probably have about 300 videos on YouTube. Some are educational, some are just videos from Rosh Chodesh or from events. But I encourage you to visit our YouTube page if you'd like to see more about that. We're going to start out here with the history of Women of the Wall, a fairly brief one. Our organization was begun in December of 1988 when 70 women met in Jerusalem for a feminist conference. And it was Rosh Chodesh, the first day of the new month. They wanted to celebrate with a traditional service at the Western Wall. And so what they did was they went to the wall, they did the service, but they understood that if they tried to read Torah on the women's side of the Western Wall, that there would be a problem because that is not prohibited. There is a regulation at the Western Wall that women cannot touch Torah, and all the Torahs are on the men's side. So in this picture for 1989, it shows the alternative situation for Torah reading. And this is at Robinson's Arch, which is at the south end of the Western Wall Plaza. The north end is made up of the men's section and the women's section. And the south end is just an open space, very, very rustic. There has not been a lot of construction there. It's a pile of rocks. But this is where, at that time, we went to go and read Torah. The years progressed, and women of the wall still encountered a lot of opposition when they went to the Kotel because they were wearing talit and tefillin, and people claimed that what we were doing was against the culture of the place, of the site, because it is under ultra-Orthodox control. But people got used to seeing us there. But between 2010 and 2013, it was determined that women could not wear talito and tefillin at the wall, and women could not bring in Torahs. They just, from 1989 to about 2010, people were used to seeing us. We were a normalized image, but the restrictions were getting tighter and tighter, and that happened throughout our entire country, not just at the Kotel. So between 2010 and 2013, it was quite a pivotal time for us. More than 50 women were arrested at the Kotel for wearing talit and tefillin. And at one point, the Western Wall police would make women wear a talit wrapped around their shoulders, around their neck like a scarf, because they said the men can wear a talit the way men traditionally do, but women cannot. It is not a women's ritual item, and they have to wear it like a scarf. And when our women of the wall opposed that, they were then arrested, and some of them, Anat Hoffman was one who was taken to jail. Anat was taken to jail for saying the Shema was something different, but there was always a very, very strong and aggressive police presence at the Kotel when Women of the Wall came. The years have passed. I joined Women of the Wall in 2015. Invariably, there's harassment when we are at the wall on the first of the new month, but we are making strides. After that really difficult time from 2010 to 2013, we really normalized the image of a woman wearing a talit. We went to court, we complained to the police, we said, we're not doing anything against Jewish law. It may not be what the ultra-Orthodox want to see because it's not their tradition for women to use these ritual items and to enhance their Jewish experience. But there is nothing in Jewish law, in halakha, that says that women cannot use this. And we are fighting for that, for women to have freedom of expression, as the rabbi said. What was very important to us and really made a very significant difference in our organization is in 2019, as you can see, that is Yochi Rappaport in the photo. Yochi is our new executive director of the past about 15 months. She took the place of Leslie Sachs, who had been there for a decade. Yochi is young, she's only 30 years old, but she was raised in Tzfat as an Orthodox woman. And so even though the image of Women of the Wall is reform or a little bit liberal with conservatives and reconstructionists in our group, we actually do have Orthodox women. And Yochi is showing Orthodox women by her actions, by the tefillin that she's wearing, that you can be Orthodox and you can be feminist. And that these are traditions, rituals that are given to women, women can use if they want, and they can elevate their prayer experience. So the slide shows the trajectory that we've been on from 1988 with a group of women basically going into another part of the Kotel because they knew they couldn't have a Torah, all the way now to being led by an Orthodox woman from Tzfat who completely believes that we will do our best every month to try and bring a Torah into the wall at the Kotel Plaza. So here are the 4 T's we've been fighting for, which I've touched on. The wearing of talit for women, should they wish to, the same with tefillin, to pray as a group and out loud, the 3rd T. This is important because typically when someone is visiting the wall, they will notice that women have their head bowed into their small prayer books and you don't hear from them. They're mumbling or maybe just moving their lips. And that's because ultra-Orthodox tradition teaches that women should not be heard. Women's voices disturb men's prayers. We're saying that's ridiculous. What could be more joyous than women praying out loud and having their voices heard? So we have fought for that. I believe now we are still the only prayer group that meets and does a service out loud at the Kotel every Rosh Chodesh. They're smaller groups, but they don't have the complete service like we do, where they're singing and we have a prayer book and we've got a full framework around what we do. But it is important for our voices to be heard. And the logo that we've adopted for our organization is, let me hear your voice, for it. Your voice is melodic and your face is beautiful. And it comes from the Song of Songs, and on our talitot and on our challah covers, we have that embroidered because we don't want women silenced. We don't want women put in the back to be second-rate citizens. So to us, to have a group that is praying out loud is very, very important. The last thing that we're fighting for and we're still struggling with is, as I mentioned earlier, the access to Torah scrolls. We are not permitted to bring one in. It is against the law of the Kotel Plaza. On the men's side, there are 200 Torah scrolls. Women cannot have any of them for use. We did have a gentleman, a rabbi, about 5 years ago, who tried to hand us one. He got the Torah from the storage area of the men's side, and he handed it over the divider to the women's side, and he was physically beaten up for it. And because of that as well, the security measures at the Western Wall have increased. So now there's a gap, like almost a moat between the women's side and the men's side, so that won't happen again. But we try every single month to smuggle in a Torah. We've got various ways of doing it. We were at the Kotel on both Thursday and Friday, and we were not successful. The Torah was seized from us. But we try, because this is the one last thing we're fighting for. Again, there's no reason in Jewish law for women to not have access to Torah. This is simply a rule made up under the guise of religion. And it is because the ultra-Orthodox tradition does not recognize women as having access to Torah and Torah learning. And this is what we're fighting for. So aside from our presence at the Kotel every month on the first day of the new Jewish month, we have a very important educational component of our organization. And this is where we're spreading the message, just like I'm doing here today, and teaching people what we do so that people can understand how lucky, for example, you are in your synagogue, that you have the ability to learn Torah, to fully participate, to count in a minyan. And here in Israel, because of the regulations that are strongly imposed by the ultra-Orthodox, who are part of the ruling body of our country, we are denied that as women here. So our educational component, starting on the left, we have our executive director, media executive director, Leslie Sachs, reading Torah. We teach women to chant Torah, and we also do training for prayer leaders. We just had a two-session Torah reading class, 12 people enrolled for it. And then we have, for our prayer leaders, they're typically our board members, but often we'll have visiting rabbis or other people in the community who want to read Hallel or the prayer for the state of Israel or something. And so we teach them how to lead a congregation, that congregation being our Women of the Wall community. The middle picture shows Israeli girls who have been bat mitzvah with Women of the Wall. In Israel, only 5% of girls have a bat mitzvah. It is not part of Israeli culture. And again, it goes back to what people grew up with. People didn't know, people in Israel did not realize that there were options. Reform and conservative Judaism has existed in our country. Way back, it didn't have the power it does now. We're now up to 50 liberal congregations in our state, our country. But still, we're trying to change the societal attitudes in Israel. So our bat mitzvah program is very, very important to us. We don't do many bat mitzvah. We probably only do 3 to 5 a year. And it's not for lack of trying. We do try and get girls to come and be with us on Rosh Chodesh. That is the only day that we'll do bat mitzvah. But parents are concerned about the security issues, and that's mostly what precludes people from joining us, which is very sad, because when we do have a bat mitzvah, it is so joyous and so beautiful, and it is so important for Israeli society to see that girls can enjoy this ceremony and this ritual and this coming of age rite as well as boys. The last picture shows us standing in Jerusalem, pre-COVID, of course, on Jaffa Road, which is a main pedestrian area with lots of shopping and restaurants and touristy sites. We go twice a year, actually, at least, to the site on Jaffa Road. We stand at a booth, and we have talitot, and we have tefillin for women to try, to wrap. And it's always so touching to me. Women will approach us and they'll talk about the warm memories of watching their father wrap talit, and they never knew that they could do it as well. And to stand there and say a Shehechianu with a woman who could be 70 years old, who's a grandma, and she's feeling it for herself, and then she'll share that message and perhaps say to her granddaughter, this is yours as well. I did it. Now you can do it too. And it's very, very powerful when we have these booths. We have also been at train stations and offered the same service. We have been at the market in Tel Aviv. We try to be in areas that have a lot of foot traffic. Sometimes we encounter a little bit of an obstacle whereby we can't get the permission. The city of Jerusalem may say, no, sorry, we don't want you. And it depends on who's in charge at that point. If it is somebody who's ultra-Orthodox, they will give us a hard time. And then we may end up having to threaten legal action to get the approval to have these booths. It's a public site. Everyone else does it. Chabad does it. And there's no reason, again, why women can't. So these are some of the things that we do when we're not at the Western Wall the one day a month. This shows our holiday events, an additional part of our educational component. And at the top, we have our Megillah reading. We come fully dressed up. We have anywhere from about 100 to 150 women. This year was the last day that we could congregate publicly before Corona regulations really hit hard. We had about 50 women this year, but it's a really fun day, and it shows people that we're going to the wall to do other things besides pray at Rosh Chodesh, and that we're just people. We're celebrating Jewish holidays. We do everything according to Jewish law. We don't take shortcuts. We don't try to rewrite things. We do everything traditional so that any woman will feel comfortable being with us. And we actually do get a lot of Orthodox women who come to our Megillah reading because it is a mitzvah to hear the Megillah read. In the middle, which is very timely, we offer the shofar blowing workshop every year. This picture was taken last year in Jerusalem. We went into a park. There's a lot of foot traffic, so it allowed women who walk by to come to try the shofar. We had bubble blowing for kids to get children in the mood and to be able to keep them busy so that the moms or whoever they were with could blow shofar. This year, we have to do a shofar blowing workshop on Zoom, and it will be held on September 10th. We're going to give it a try. Hopefully it'll work out because it is one of our favorite events and we really would like to see it succeed this year. The last picture shows all of us at Hanukkah. And you'll notice our menorah is shaped a little bit funny. And this menorah was given to us. It was designed by an artist named Judy Sarna, who lives in New York City. And for a number of years, we had a problem bringing in a menorah to the women's section. So Judy made this for us, and it's made of interlocking PVC pipes. And we bring it in a big duffel bag, and nobody really knows what it is because it's all in parts. And then the security guards turn away from us, and we build it in about 5 minutes. I'd like to share with you the origin story of why we do this, why Women of the Wall does this every year. The official menorah for the state of Israel is placed every year on the men's side of the Western Wall. So that automatically means that women can't participate. Women cannot light a candle because they're not permitted onto the men's side. Every year we write to the Knesset members and we say, please, this is not right. Do not support it. Do not go to the ceremony. Help us, raise your voices, stand with us, and let our country know that this isn't right. Doesn't happen every year. They still put the menorah on the men's side. And so we've decided to take on the challenge and put a menorah on the women's side. We typically get about 100 women. Many of them bring, it's a little difficult to see, but in the foreground, women bring their own menorahs. We all light together, we sing, we dance. Again, showing people that we're celebrating Judaism with joy, and we're using it to elevate and to enhance our Jewish identities. And no woman, no person should not be able to do that in the Jewish homeland and at the Western Wall, our holiest site. Here's where we do advocacy. The first one is a picture from 2017 at a protest, which is very, very popular now. People are protesting the situation in our country with the lack of leadership on every level. I was going to say on COVID, but really on every level. We just have such a bad situation here with leadership and with our government. But this picture is from 2017. And then one of our main things that we advocated for was a liberal prayer space at Robinson's Arch, which I showed in one of the very first slides. Again, this is a part of the Southern Wall, and right now it is under the auspices of the conservative movement. It is not a nice area. You can see sort of, there's been decking put on a pile of rocks, and that's what they claim is now the egalitarian prayer section. And in 2013, the Prime Minister, Bibi Netanyahu, told Avichai Mendelblit, who was one of his ministers, to get together the managerial body of the Western Wall Heritage Foundation that oversees the site, and liberal party. So it was the reform and conservative movements in Israel, and same in America, North America, the Jewish federations, the Jewish agencies, and Women of the Wall. So it was 5 liberal groups with the state of Israel. And the state of Israel had said to us, let's negotiate for Robinson's Arch. You tell us what you need. We'll get an agreement in place. And then we will make this place sacred, dignified, and it will be a liberal prayer spot for mixed gender prayer as you wish. And, you know, then we can get Women of the Wall out of the women's section. There'll be a lot less conflict at the site. And let's see if we can come to an agreement. In January 2016, the agreement was reached. It was passed 15-5 by the Knesset. So on January 31st, 2016, we were dancing in the streets. We were so excited because passing that agreement meant that our country recognized that there was more than one way to be Jewish, and that they were putting their money where their mouth was. The government agreed to the terms we had set out. They were going to build the space, and they were also going to include a budget for annual maintenance. What happened was in June of 2017, 18 months later, nothing had been happening. The agreement was signed, and then everything came to a standstill. And the reason that it did that was because the Prime Minister received backlash from the ultra-Orthodox parties in his coalition. And they said, if you continue to work with the liberal streams, we are backing out of the government, and the government will collapse without us. And so 18 months later, Benjamin Netanyahu froze the Kotel agreement, and we never heard anything more. We took them to court. We took the government to court. They used stall tactics. They had told us at one point that they would recreate the agreement. They would take our opinion on the new terms, but it didn't mean that they had to abide by them. So we now have, we still have the Robinson's Arch under the conservative movement, but the movement can't afford to do the upgrades and to make it the dignified space that the government had promised. So here we are 3 years later, nothing has happened. As a matter of fact, 2 years ago, a boulder fell out of the wall at this spot, and it's still sitting there, that nobody even repaired the wall in this egalitarian section. But if it had happened in the other part of the Western Wall, in the North Plaza, where the men or the women's side is, they would have stopped everything to fix it. But for us, they haven't even given us that courtesy. So for this slide, I just wanted to share with you about the Kotel agreement. We would like to get back to fighting for this. COVID has set us way, way back, but we would like to pick up this fight and eventually have our own space. As I said, the construction and the annual maintenance budget would be covered by the Israeli government. The ruling body would only be the members of the 5 liberal negotiating partners. We do not want this run by the ultra-Orthodox like the northern part of the Western Wall. Then we gain nothing, and they'll simply turn it into an ultra-Orthodox synagogue, just like the northern side. So we want to be the ones who manage the area. We want an entrance that has clear signage and is after security. Because right now, to get into this egalitarian area, you don't even have to go through security. So that's a little disconcerting when everybody else to go into the main plaza has to be body checked and have their bags checked. But to go to ours, it's like, okay, just go. We don't care about security. We want the space to look nice. We don't want it to be a pile of rocks with a platform on top. We want sidurim. We want Torah scrolls. We want chairs so that people can sit down if they're praying. There's chairs in the northern plaza. We want some at Robinson's Arch. And lastly, we want the area to have accommodations for those who have mobility issues. Right now, it's all stairs and slope, and there's no way that if someone has an issue that they can get to the egalitarian prayer spot, and it's simply not fair. So these are the things that we hope to be fighting for. Right now, we are continuing on the women's side. We will not leave the women's side until Robinson's Arch is built to our satisfaction and women can have Torah scroll at Robinson's Arch. If not, we just want Torah scrolls on the women's side. So until that time, we'll keep going every Rosh Chodesh, every first day of the new month. We will have our prayers, we will wear talit, we will wear tefillin, we will come with Torah scrolls, and we will continue to fight for equality for women and all streams of Judaism at the wall. So that's the end of my presentation. We are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on Instagram. I encourage you to please follow us and join us. We've got some great events coming up. We are doing a challah baking with a gentleman, one of our men of the wall, on Thursday night. And then we'll have our shofar event. We will do slichot in September as well. Usually at Sukkot, we do an event. So please go sign up for our newsletter, follow us on Facebook, and become a part of the Women of the Wall community. So thank you. I'm happy to entertain questions if anyone has.
Thank you for talking with us, and don't give up.
Thank you, thank you. We're trying
Don't
not
give
to.
up. You know, it's not fair or right. Women have a right to. So you just keep at it. Don't give up. But I admire your courage. I do. If I were there in Israel, I'd be with you.
Thank you, thank you. Well, join us, watch our live stream, and participate, and you're a part of us. Trust me, we could not do what we do and face what we face I was going to say every month, but it's truly every day, without the support of people like you. I mean, it means so much to us.
How do I connect with y'all? How do I connect?
Facebook, or go to our website, sign up for our newsletter, or I can put my email address. I'm sorry?
Can you give me your
I'll put it in the chat.
Great. Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
You bet, thank you.
You're
Anyone
welcome.
else? Has
Shelley.
anybody? Yes.
Hi, this is Shelley.
Hi,
Can
Shelley.
you tell us a little bit about your story and how you got involved with Women of the Wall and what brought you to doing this?
Thank you, thank you. You know, it's interesting that you say that, because I did a lecture last week, and the rabbi said to me, you know, sometimes you seem a little bit unhappy. Can you explain why we should still love Israel? And I mean, I'm paraphrasing. He was lovely, but he said, you know, show us where there's hope in all of this tumult. And I said, you know, I'm case in point. I had a wonderful life in America. I grew up there. I had a job at a synagogue that I loved. But something was calling my husband and I to come here. And we gave up everything to be here. We've never, ever, ever looked back. Every day I wake up and I could cry. I am so honored and humbled to be in this country. And when we first made Aliyah, I started working, well, I had a few years off, and then I worked for a food bank in Israel, the world's, Israel's largest food bank, called Leket Israel. And then I was only working for them part-time, and we were on a leave because of Shemitah, when the fields don't produce. And so I had some free time, and a job came up at Women of the Wall. And I had met a rabbinic student a few years prior who was the Women of the Wall intern. And so at that bad time between 2010 and 2013, I was going to the Women of the Wall services and seeing what went on. And when this job came up part-time, I thought, wow, I have to do it. I have to. And I was lucky enough to get the job. And my husband and I always said we came here because we need to let people know the importance of liberal Judaism in this country. There's so much beauty in all of Judaism, but people don't always give liberal streams the credit that they deserve. And we want to do that. We want to be part of changing and transforming this country the way it's transformed us. And it's I don't know what more. I can't even verbalize it. It's such an honor to be here and to do this work. I don't know what more to say. I'll start to cry. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you some questions about this overt. It's not even overt; it's not the right word, but this tremendous hostility towards the women of the wall by the ultra-Orthodox community. I participated in the Women of the Wall services, and I wrote
Thank you.
as an academic. So you're not going to see my stuff in the New York Times, but I have a wonderful picture. I have two wonderful pictures, both in my book in Jerusalem. One of a policeman confiscating a shofar, which I thought was hilarious, but
Yes.
serious. And the other one was of the men on the men's side standing on chairs, looking over the mechitza and screaming at the top of their lungs,
Yeah.
trying to drown out the women. And the younger men, on the men's side, obviously, singing with the women to drown out the Hassaman. I also interviewed the heads of the management of the Kotel to understand why were they getting so upset about this. I mean, from my perspective, it's like, what, where's the beef? And they said that they had to protect the Kotel because if they didn't protect it in whatever way they saw women as being an obstacle, that the Messiah would never come, which seemed like a big deal to them, but seemed also like a little BS to me. So I want you to tell me about the strength of this hostility and how it's still going on and why it's why it is the way it is.
Well, first of all, I would love to see what you've written. If you can share it at all, I would love to see it. So thank you. Thank you for joining us and thank you for writing about it. I think it's no different than anybody else who's very, I hate to use the word fanatical, but that's almost what it is. There's a fanaticism that narrows their view. And I've given lectures before where I've said, Judaism isn't narrow. I mean, there's so much, as I just said, beauty and richness to it. And Women of the Wall is trying to express that and trying to, I mean, I've been Jewish, I'm 55 years old. I've been Jewish for 55 years, and to have some little punk who is 10 years old screaming at me over the mechitza saying, calling us pigs and awful things, which I won't repeat. It's like, how can people behave that way? But there's people who just cannot see beyond themselves. And it's very, very sad. It's heartbreaking because think of how much better Judaism could be. But, no, we're not out to hurt anybody. The Women of the Wall is not out to take anything away from anybody. It's there to add something. So if we by no means want to interrupt the ultra-Orthodox tradition, please, if that's the way they live and that's how they get joy, I want them to have it. It's a gift from God, but let me have it too. But some people just are very sheltered. They live in a clustered environment where they don't know people outside themselves. And so when they see us, they can't, it's just incomprehensible to them. And so that's where the anger comes from, because they can't even process it. And we were at the Kotel on Friday, and there's a video of this on our Facebook page. A young man stepped on someone's tefillin. She bent down to put them away. He stepped on him, and luckily the police were right there and able to nab the gentleman. It was a kid, 19 years old. But who behaves like that? It's inconceivable, but there's people who cannot understand that there's more than one way to celebrate our Judaism.
Thank you.
I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's a perspective that I needed to hear.
Thank you,
Nechama,
ma'am. Yes, Rabbi.
yeah, I was wondering if you share if there's been any conversation about the inclusion of trans women or non-binary folks participating with Women of the Wall and how that has been approached.
We have people of all different identities who join us. The one we want, whoever wants to be with us, please, the more the merrier. The more we can celebrate people's identities and Judaism in their identities, that's what we want. We have had a few instances where people were stopped at the Kotel going into the women's side because they may not have had an appearance of women. And it's not anything that we as an organization, we don't get involved with. That's an issue that has to be handled between those two parties. But we want whoever wants to come with us to come with us. And there have been students who have been transitioning, and they have joined us on the women's side more because they did have a more feminine appearance and didn't attract as much attention by the security at the wall. But we invite everybody. If somebody wants to be with us and celebrate Judaism, please do.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for asking, Rabbi.
Sure.
Anybody else? Anyone care to share anything?
Real quick, I just want to share with you that I have an intellectual disability, and so I had a hard time in school being accepted. So I know what it's like, and it's not fair that people treat people that way. We're not, like you said, you're not hurting anybody. It's
Right.
that matters. And it's sad that people have to be like that. You just want your voice to be heard. And you're right.
Exactly.
You participate in whatever you believe and want. I just think that's so unfair that people can be like that and don't care. And what about people that are married to women? How can they be married to them and accept and agree to this? I don't get that.
Well, and one of the core values of Judaism is B'Tselem Elohim. We're all created in God's image, and to deny somebody the chance to celebrate their Judaism because it doesn't fall into this very narrow and stringent way of Judaism is, I can't wrap my head around it. So I encourage you all, we did have Rosh Chodesh just the other day on Friday. We will not celebrate at the Kotel on Rosh Chodesh Tishrei because it will be Rosh Hashanah, but Cheshvan will be back at the Kotel. The date for that escapes me right now, but it is on our website under the tab for Rosh Chodesh. And we do live stream. It is midnight in Atlanta. But I can tell you, people stay up to be with us. And if you can't stay up, then we do record it. And you can see a recording of Fridays if you care to on our website. Please go and, I'm sorry, not our website, on Facebook. Please go and visit that. You can see what we did. Now on Friday, we got to the Western Wall and they've divided it for health reasons, for COVID reasons. And they ran out of what they call capsules. And they said, sorry, we don't have a place for you. When they knew we were coming, they knew. Thank you, Rabbi. So we just said, okay, we'll make our own space. And we just moved to the back of the Kotel Plaza, and actually when they have people who have special dispensation to drive onto the Kotel property, that's where we stood. We said, you're not going to stop us. You're not going to stop us. We are a group of women. It is Rosh Chodesh. We want to do a prayer for an hour and a half. We're going to find a space no matter how you try and stop us. So that video is on Facebook, and I encourage you to take a look at it if it interests you. And then there's the short, I think it's 51-second video of the gentleman who stepped on the tefillin and then took off. He broke free from the police and ran off. So you can see.
I have another couple of questions, if I could.
Sure.
What kind of support do you get from the general public? And what can we do is there anything we can do from here in terms of trying to change things? I don't even know how to ask the question.
Well, it's a great question though, so thank you. We are gaining a lot of ground with the Israeli public, especially because of Yochi, being an Orthodox woman, being Israeli. she really puts a whole new face on our organization, and it's very attractive to the Israeli public. I think we've doubled our Facebook numbers on the Hebrew page, probably in about 3 years. I think it's almost 11,000, and that's all due to the fact that Yochi brings such credibility and she's such a paragon for Israeli Orthodox feminists. And we even did a program in April where we had an Israeli female rabbi. She's originally American, and she talked about her path to Torah. And then we had a woman from America, from the Jewish Orthodox Feminist Alliance, and she told her story about her path to Torah. And just seeing these women from two very different parts of the spectrum, but they still found their path to Torah. was really fantastic. And a lot of that is Yochi's creativity and connections to make that happen. As to supporting us, follow us on Facebook. If you see sometimes we have letter writing campaigns, or now they're email campaigns, or even if we had a gentleman from Florida who watched the video of us being body searched last week. He wrote to the consulate in Miami and just said, who behaves this way? And this was a gentleman who's been a supporter for a long time. So if you see something that bothers you, that isn't according to your way of Jewish values, write to somebody, let your voice be heard. We also have a store. We have beautiful Women of the Wall talitot, 3 different styles. We have on Facebook too, we did a fashion show so you could see the talit in all its glory, how big it is and the colors and all that. We have challah covers, we have mezuzot. That's how people support us too, by just showing the rest of the world. I'm wearing a Women of the Wall talit. I stand with Women of the Wall and what they stand for. So thank you for asking that, Shelley.
And if I could just say 2 other things about how to support. So from where I stand, the Women of the Wall are an important organization fighting for religious pluralism and equality in Israel. And there are a number of other sibling organizations. Nechama mentioned Anat Hoffman. So, I'm somebody who has subscribed to Iraq, which is the Israeli Religious Action Center. And there, in addition to their letter writing campaigns, there's often ways to be able to express our voice as well. And then one of the things that happens here in the United States, and it's already happened this year, but there's an opportunity for people to vote in the World Zionist Congress. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, this is our voice into the process. And the Reconstructionist movement, the Reform movement, often supports different progressive blocs and agendas. It's very inexpensive to pay for your vote. Everyone registers and pays a small fee, but it's really important that progressive Jews vote in the World Zionist Congress in order for us to be able to have our voice have the kind of heft and weight. And in this way, I believe it lifts all boats who are working on these issues together. Thank you.
And also, we just put into office a new Minister of Diaspora Affairs, and she's an ultra-Orthodox woman. And we're really holding her feet to the fire because she's already backpedaled a little bit. She had a lot of the good rhetoric at the beginning about bridging the gap and all this stuff. Her name is escaping me right now, but I can get the name and drop her a line and just say, I'm in World Jewry, I'm in the diaspora, and we need to connect. We need to make sure that every Jew counts, that every form of Judaism is respected and appreciated, and let's all have a seat at the table and bring our very best to it and make Israel a better place.
Yeah. May I say just one more thing about and do a plug for the Old City itself? I spent a lot of time in Jerusalem, and I loved hanging at the old city. I can tell you all my favorite spots, but one of them is not the Kotel, and that's because I feel it's not humanized, and the Women of Wall is a bridge to humanizing it. But I don't want to it's not a denigration of Judaism. I'm proud, but to walk on the Kotel as a woman, to be immediately approached by what I call the clothing police, where just all that stuff, and then you walk on there, and I always feel like I'm doing something wrong. So my favorite place to just go it's not even I guess from a spiritual capacity, I love the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. I love it. I will tell you, I drag people there. Look at those people waving their rags on the place where they think Jesus Christ died. And, it's like, for me, it's like, wow. I'll follow all the different, denominations around for their little tours and stuff. And the only thing anybody's ever said to me that was negative is, could I stop chewing gum? And I just, I love having access to all the different communities and the stores and the diversity, and I'll hang out at all the other quarters except the Jewish quarter, and so I'm doing almost a confessional, but do you know what I'm talking about?
Of course, but I, like Rabbi Lesser had given ways to get involved, maybe by it sounds like you are involved so much already, but even taking another step and maybe writing a couple letters or some emails and really engaging, some of that feeling will go away, where you'll have your appreciation for the other denominations, but you'll also come to appreciate, what's happening at the Western Wall to change the feeling that you have. I mean, we don't like the modesty police. We don't like that at all. And that's the kind of thing, nobody should look sloppy and not appropriate for the Kotel, but I mean, I run around without sleeves all the time. Why? Come on, you give me this dirty schmata to put on because you don't want to see my shoulders. But again, that's the ultra-Orthodox influence. That's them turning a public holy site into a synagogue, and it isn't a synagogue. So I think if you can communicate your dismay, your disdain over that, I think it would be very constructive. And hopefully when everybody comes to Israel, when Rabbi Lesser plans the next trip to Israel, and things will be different, and you'll come be with Women of the Wall, and we'll all just share the beauty of this country together. My wish.
I hope that happens.
So I want to give great appreciation to you, Nechama Namal, for speaking and sharing more about Women of the Wall to us. For us, it's just a really incredible way to continue to enter into the month of Elul and to do our own preparations. It's amazing to use this moment to connect with our Jewish family around the world. And so we want to wish you a happy and healthy new year. And please convey our community's well wishes to the Women of the Wall. And
Thank you.
We want to continue to hear your voice, and we want to join our voice with yours. So thank you.
And I just typed in my email address. Please feel free to contact me. Even if it's not Women of the Wall related, if there's something I can assist with, or if you're headed in our direction, please do let me know. I'd love to meet supporters and get to know you and share my love of this country with you. And it's been an absolute joy. I'm so humbled to be with you today. So thank you. And Chag Sameach, happy, healthy, wonderful New Year to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very
well.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And to the folks who are remaining, I just want to kind of direct people tomorrow. There's going to be a lunch and learn at noon with Rabbi Pamela Gottfried, which will talk about themes of Teshuvah. You can find it on the website, Congregation Bet Haverim.org, or you can find it on our Facebook page as well. There are opportunities all throughout Elul to continue our learning and deepen this time and preparation. And very soon, there will be something arriving at your doorsteps that should both surprise, delight, and support you in making it a very meaningful High Holy Days. Please check out our High Holy Day calendar and share it with your friends and family. we really want to make sure that people know that, as always, no tickets, no paywalls. Everybody is invited to come and celebrate some or all of the high holy days with us. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing your faces soon.
I'd like to help vote too for this. So thank you.
I didn't hear you, Susan.
I said I want to help vote for the women, the law, to support them.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for talking with us.
Shavua Tov, everybody. I'm signing off.
Shavua Tov. Take good
Yeah.
care. Have a good
Bye.
night.
Thank you.
Hi, Beth Ann.
Hi, Susan. I was just
Thank you,
about
Haley.
to leave the meeting.
Okay, I'll see you soon.
Take good care. See you in the morning.
Bye, Ann. Good to see you. Bye, Susan.
Bye.